The moment I saw Emily crouched by my teacup, shaking something from a small vial into the amber liquid, my world tilted on its axis. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, I stood frozen in the doorway of my own kitchen, watching my daughter-in-law's delicate fingers work with practiced precision. She didn't notice me. She was too focused, her lips moving silently as if counting drops. When she finally turned and our eyes met, the vial slipped from her hand and shattered across my ceramic tiles. Margaret, her face drained of color, hands flying to her mouth. I should have screamed. I should have called the police, my son, anyone. Instead, I heard myself ask, almost calmly, "How long have you been doing this?" Emily's silence was answer enough. That was Tuesday. By Wednesday evening, my son Daniel called with those 4 words that make every parent's stomach drop. "Mom, we need to talk." I'd barely slept. Every joint in my body ached, the same mysterious aches that had been plaguing me for months, sending me to doctor after doctor with no clear diagnosis. Fatigue that felt like drowning, nausea that came in waves. The doctors called it stress, aging, possible fibromyalgia. I'd started to believe I was simply falling apart at 62. But now I knew better. I sat in my living room, the same floral couch where I'd rocked Daniel as a baby, where I'd consoled him through his first heartbreak, where I'd cried tears of joy when he told me Emily was pregnant with my first grandchild. The grandfather clock my late husband Thomas bought at an estate sale ticked away the seconds until Daniel's arrival. When his key turned in the lock, I straightened my spine. Whatever poison Emily had been feeding me hadn't broken me yet. Daniel entered alone, his face etched with exhaustion. At 34, he looked suddenly older, the boyishness I still glimpsed in him completely vanished. He sat across from me, not beside me, and that distance felt deliberate. "Mom," he began, then faltered, his hands clasped and unclasped. "Emily told me what happened, what you saw." "What I saw," I repeated slowly, "was my daughter-in-law poisoning my tea." "It wasn't poison," his voice cracked. "Mom, please, just listen." I wanted to rage at him, to demand how he could possibly defend this, but something in his expression stopped me. He looked broken, utterly shattered in a way I'd never seen, not even when his father died. "Then what was it?" I asked. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Ground valerian root, chamomile extract, and melatonin, natural supplements." He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo of the same vial I'd seen Emily use. "We ordered them from a holistic wellness site. Everything's labeled, Mom. It's all here." I stared at the screen, my certainty wavering. Why would Emily be putting supplements in my tea without telling me? "Because you won't sleep." Daniel's voice broke completely now. "Because for 6 months, you've been deteriorating and you refuse to admit why. Because every time any of us try to talk to you about it, you shut down." "I've been sick." "You've been grieving." The word landed like a slap. I opened my mouth to protest, but Daniel continued, tears streaming down his face now. "Dad died 2 years ago and you've never dealt with it. Not really. You threw yourself into volunteering, into babysitting Chloe, into staying busy every single second. But Mom, Emily hears you at night when you stay over. Packing, crying, having full conversations with Dad like he's still here. You sleep maybe 3 hours. You barely eat. You're making yourself sick with grief and you won't accept help." "That's not, I'm managing fine." "You're not," Daniel's voice rose. "Last month you left Chloe's stroller in the middle of the street. You forgot Emily's birthday. You called me Thomas 3 times in one conversation. Mom, we're terrified. Emily has been trying everything, making you special teas, suggesting meditation, gently encouraging you to see a therapist. But you're so stubborn, so convinced you're fine that she started adding natural sleep aids to help you rest, at least. Was it the right approach? Maybe not. But she's been desperate." My throat tightened. "Why didn't you just tell me this?" "We tried." Daniel leaned forward, taking my hands. "Remember when Emily suggested you join that grief support group at the community center? You said you didn't need it because you weren't falling apart like those people. When I mentioned therapy, you laughed and said you were from a generation that didn't pay strangers to listen to problems. Every single gentle suggestion gets deflected." I wanted to argue, but fragments of memories surfaced. Emily's careful questions about how I was really doing. Daniel's concerned looks when I couldn't remember our lunch plans. My sister calling to ask if I was okay because I'd seemed distant at Thanksgiving. The supplements, I whispered, they weren't working. Not well enough. Mom, you need more than chamomile. You need real help, professional help. Daniel's grip on my hands tightened. When Emily told me you'd caught her and accused her of poisoning you, I knew we'd reached a crisis point. We can't watch you disappear anymore. I'm not disappearing. You are. You're becoming a ghost just like Dad. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. And I can't lose you too. The dam inside me cracked. All the grief I'd been holding back, channeling into activity, burying under competence and capability, came flooding out. I told myself I was strong, that I was honoring Thomas by carrying on, by not burdening my children with my pain. But I'd only been running. I miss him so much, I sobbed. Every morning I wake up and for 1 second I forget he's gone. And then I remember and it's like losing him all over again, every single day. Daniel moved to sit beside me, wrapping his arms around me as I fell apart. I know, Mom, we all know, but you don't have to carry it alone. We sat there for a long time, me crying against my son's shoulder while he held me the way I'd held him countless times throughout his life. The roles reversed, the child comforting the parent. Eventually, my tears subsided. I pulled back, wiping my face. I owe Emily an apology. She's waiting in the car, Daniel admitted. She was afraid to come in. She's been crying all day, terrified that she'd destroyed your relationship, that you'd never forgive her. Tell her to come in, please. Daniel texted, and moments later, Emily appeared at the door, her eyes red and swollen. She looked at me with such genuine fear and remorse that my last bit of anger dissolved. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have been honest. I was just so scared, and I thought if I could just help you sleep a little, maybe. Come here, I interrupted, opening my arms. She rushed forward, and I held her tight, this woman who'd been trying to help me in the only way she knew how, who'd been watching me destroy myself and had felt desperate enough to act, even if imperfectly. I'm the one who should apologize, I said, for shutting you both out, for being too proud to admit I was drowning. We talked for hours that night, really talked. Emily confessed how helpless she'd felt watching me deteriorate. Daniel admitted he'd been having panic attacks, terrified of losing another parent. I finally spoke honestly about the crushing weight of widowhood, the loneliness that followed me everywhere, the guilt I felt for still being alive when Thomas wasn't. By the time they left, I had an appointment scheduled with a grief counselor, a promise to attend a support group, and a commitment to be honest about my struggles instead of hiding them behind a mask of capability. The next morning, I made my own tea, no mysterious additives needed. But as I sat at my kitchen table watching the sunrise paint my walls golden, I realized something crucial. Healing wasn't betraying Thomas's memory. Accepting help wasn't weakness. And sometimes, the people who love us do desperate things not to hurt us, but because they can't bear to watch us hurt ourselves. I picked up my phone and texted Emily, "Thank you for caring enough to try, even when I made it impossible. Love you." Her response came immediately, "Love you too, Mom, always." For the first time in 2 years, I felt a genuine spark of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least now I wasn't walking it alone.